Good morning. Today is Wednesday, the 10th of June 2020. This is a mind map. It's been prepared for Aboriginal clans right across Australia to bring to their awareness a very serious crisis we have here in Western Australia with 2,600 little children under the age of 12 sleeping rough or couch surfing. They're all at risk. And they have actually been on the streets now for the third winter. We just moved into the third winter. It's very cold here in Perth. And you may ask the question, why would a government leave 2,600 little children under the age of 12 sleeping rough or couch surfing for 3 winters? There's an answer to that. It's actually racism. Racism in politics, which stems back 120 years of institutionalised racism as a result of the 1901 White Australia policy. The White Australia policy was white supremacy, where it was institutionalised through all government departments, whether it was health, whether it was education, whether it was business, it didn't matter, or universities, it was programmed right through the whole lot, institutionalised, that Aboriginals, this is not their country, it's ours, the white people's country, White Australia policy. And Aboriginals were treated as animals and less than a plant with this white supremacy. And the racism went from generation to generation now for 120 years of white families teaching their children that Aboriginals were savages, animals, and less than a plant, and that they were the superior race. And you hear this all the time in Australia with this Aussie, oi, oi, oi stuff. And it's not Aboriginals saying that. That's white Australians with their superiority complex, that they are superior. So it was institutionalised through every facet of government, every facet of every community, and as a result of it, there was so many genocides, the stolen generation, raping, pillaging, raping of children, all these things, seizing of the children, you name it, it was done. And what people do not realise is that apartheid was here as well. It was developed here in Australia and then taken to South Africa, where they had to soften it because it was too harsh for the Africans. People don't know this. Australia is the test bed for horrendous human rights abuses. And the records are out there. Check the libraries, check the online communities. You know, it's all out, and government statistics have admitted it with the sorry march they had, that they did all these atrocities to Aboriginals. But my question is, why do we now have 2,000 little children who are Aboriginal sleeping rough? They're sleeping in tents, they're sleeping under bridges, they're in caves, they're in parks and under bushes. They're sleeping in dangerous squats, they're sleeping in abandoned buildings, they're also sleeping in the beds of the paedophiles, and many of them have been pack raped by the African gangsters, having street children draw them into these what they call drug dens. Once in the drug dens, they've been getting their drinks spiked with the date rape drug, and then these little girls are dragged into the bedrooms and they're pack raped by the Africans. They're really horrendous Africans. I'm not saying all Africans are like this, but these gangsters that they've brought in, the government's brought in, that's doing these horrible things to these children, they're pack raping them. And any of you who are former members of gangs know what happens in a pack rape. You know, the girl can get bashed up, they shove all sorts of things in her, and this is what the Africans have been doing, shoving dildos, vibrators, sticks, bottles, and also sodomising these little girls. One person didn't know what sodomise means. It means having anal sex with them. These are little girls under the age of 12, subjected to the most horrendous cruelty. And with gangs, what gangs do is they like to show off how cruel they are, especially when they're on meth or they're coming down on the meth. And these little girls have come out feeling just totally devastated, and they just don't want to live. Now, I got challenged by an Aboriginal bloke. Actually, he wasn't Aboriginal, he was a white fella. And but representing Aboriginals, and he said, "Look, this is a load of bollocks, that doesn't happen." I said, well, why would a Maori leader from the northern suburbs ring me up and ask me to go all the way up there to see him? He shouted me dinner, and then he said to me, "My bro, there's a crisis out there, I don't know if you're aware of it, I'd like you to do something about it." I said, "What is it, my bro?" He said, I work with the community for our Maori children. There's a crisis out there with the Aboriginal children because they've been pack raped in these what they call drug dens, and they're now called traps because they are traps for the little girls, and they've been pack raped." So he told me the story, and I said to this Aboriginal, this bloke representing the Aboriginals, I said, "Why would a Maori leader invite me all the way up to Joondalup, shout me dinner, and then speak to me from the heart?" Because he was concerned about Aboriginal children when he works with Maori children who are homeless. He's very, very disturbed. So I went and conducted a fair bit of research because I used to run a charity for children in crisis. So I got on it very quick. I talked to the different homeless organisations, Rua, Tramby, the Shopfront, and also Passages, which is the first base for homeless children. And then I also talked to the psychologists and psychiatrists organisations that were dealing with this crisis. They also confirmed that it was real, and that the children are really, really messed up, that are victims of it, and they have to try and rehabilitate them. It's a really, really shocking situation that is happening out there. Also, we have white Australian truck drivers giving these little children petrol in exchange for sex. Now, I don't know how you people feel about that, but that surely must be the lowest of the lowest of things that you can do towards another human being. Then it's now cold, so the paedophiles have got their vans, been able to draw these children in out of the cold into their vehicles and their cars, and give them drugs and alcohol and food and shelter in exchange for sex. These are sort of things that are happening here in Perth. It's really, really disgusting. It's very, very disturbing, which is why we're pleading for Oprah and Morgan Freeman and linking in with the Black Lives Matter too. And if you have a look up there, what does that say? It says little Black Lives Matter too. Because that's what they are. They're only little. Down to the age of 12. Right? Representing 50 odd Aboriginal clans. So, when you go back to it, if it was white children on the streets now for going on 3 years, 3 winters, they would have those children off the streets within 3 to 6 months. But these little children are still on the streets because they're classified by politicians as savages and less than an animal or a plant. And it goes right back 120 years of intergenerational racism passed on one white family to the next white family to the next white family to the next white family, teaching their little children in the most formative years that Aboriginals are nothing, that they are the superior race. It was called the White Australia Policy, legislated in 1901 here in Australia, where the whites claimed that Australia was theirs, that Aboriginals were nothing, which gave them the rights to commit all the human rights abuses against Aboriginals, everything from genocides to apartheid to raping of the children, seizing of the children, taking their lands, their minerals, their petroleum assets, everything, and destroying their communities by taking in the alcohol and the drugs. And this is the name of the game. It goes back 120 years to the White Australia Policy. Now, it was institutionalised. It went through every institution within government, from health to education to business to you name the department, housing. It went right through the whole lot, institutionalised, and it was passed on from generation to generations. And this is why we still have this White Australia Policy functioning today. And as I say, if it was 2,600 white children, they would have been off the streets within 3 months. This government here gave $30 million to the Catholic Cathedral to upgrade it. $30 million. It only cost Dion Joseph, who is in charge of this project, $3 million. He could have all those children off the streets, the whole lot. But no, 10 times that amount, $30 million, they gave to the Catholic Church. Last year, the federal government gave $776 million to the Catholic schools to give them a competitive edge in the marketplace over and above the common schools. $776 million. Dion Joseph only needed $3 million. And then we have the fabulous sports stadium here, cost $18 billion, which can't be used because of social distancing. So that's a white elephant. They also ran a railway out to the airport, which was pathetic because it only cost $20 to catch a Uber out there, and no one wants to drag all their bags onto a train and off a train again. So that was a total waste of time. That was $2 billion worth. Dion Joseph only needed $3 million to get all those children off the streets into hotels, right? And then we take them through what we call a 3-phase engineered migration, where we first of all get the children into the hotel so they're safe, put them straight into education, into school and the conference centres and stuff. We're bringing all the VR, AR technologies and also the VR motion machines so we can snap them out of a suicidal, depressed state if they are in one. So that's the first phase, get them off the streets into the hotel accommodation. And then the second phase is to put them through life skills education programs, particularly our happy training curriculum goal setting system, to find out what their major goal in life is. Once we find out what the major goal and we do goal in life is, we do a 10-point plan to help that child to find out where they're going in life and how to get that goal. So if the little child, she's only 6 and she wants to be a surgeon, well, then we ask her, okay, write it down, darling. She writes it down. Then we say, right, okay, well, do you believe it? And of course, a 6-year-old got to believe it. Yes, I do. And she writes down why she believes it. What are the benefits? Well, I like the idea of cutting people up, all this sort of stuff. So she write down all the benefits of doing it. It'll give her happiness and joy, etc. Then, okay, well, what's your starting point? Well, I'm only 6. Yeah, well, that's right. Just write down, all right. So, okay. So, what's the target date? So we have to work this one out with her. We say, well, you've got to go primary school, secondary school, then you've got to go to university for 6 years, and go to another 6 years in hospital, and you can become a surgeon. So you're looking at another 25 years out onto age 6. So there's your target date, 6 plus 25, 31. Age 31, that's your target date. So she puts down the target date. All right, that's what we're working towards, and then we ask her, all right, so what are the obstacles? Well, I'm homeless, I'm living on the streets. Oh, okay, just put the obstacle down. Oh, my family's all broken up. Oh, yeah, my family's addicted to drugs and alcohol. And these. Yeah, just write them down, don't worry about it. We'll solve those problems later on because we've got institutional investors coming in to back us and philanthropists. They'll look after you, okay? Don't worry about that. Now, also, write down the education you're going to need. Oh, okay, well, I need biology. Well, no use doing tech drawing, is it? No, I need biology, I need science, physics. So she gets on track with the right topics for her to learn. And then she also works out, okay, what organisations do you need to be involved with? Oh, well, I need to be involved with my school, and then the university, and then, I need to get involved with the Fiona Stanley Hospital as well. Fantastic. So you know all the organisations you need to be involved with, right? Okay, what do you need for the learning aids and stuff, material? Well, I need a laptop, I need a latest iPhone or whatever. I need the VR technologies, and okay, no good, you're on there, we'll organise all that. And so she gets very, very excited because she can see her life there, it's planned. All right, so what are the stages? We write down all the different stages that we're going to do, and then a whole list of activities that she's got to do to become a surgeon. And she leads a very happy life. Even if she's homeless, she can still see that vision of hers to become a surgeon. And then we hook her up with the the Fiona Stanley Hospital. Say, hey, look, this little girl, she wants to be a surgeon. How about your hospital sponsor her, all right? You supply all the education needs, clothing, everything she needs. And then when she goes up, she'll come work for you. How's that for a winner? But not only that, it's going to soften the face of your hospital. It will make your hospital or your staff so excited when they see there's a little child. She's set her goal. She wants to be a surgeon at that hospital. Watch what that does to the morale of your hospital if you sponsor this little child. So this is the way it works. That's part of the happy training curriculum, to help that little girl get off the streets, but to have a good frame of mind, because you can be on the streets, you can be sick or whatever, but if you have hope, that one day, despite all the obstacles that you have, you can become the surgeon or the person that you want to be in the future. And this is it. We help the children through the happy training curriculum to discover their pathway to happiness and future employment, by bringing in the philanthropists, by bringing in the sponsors, looking after that little child, giving her all the extra education. We also asked the Fiona Stanley Hospital, hey listen, can we bring her in to let her watch a surgery? Talk to your doctors? Of course they can open the books. Yeah, bring her in. And that's how it works, the happy training curriculum, to make the children happy. Because our vision that drives our Sustainable Nation Building Industry Group and Dion Joseph is very simple. It's to create a happy future for our children and for our children's children from all walks of life without prejudice. All right, I got slightly distracted there, so let's go on the mind map. The mind map, this is the title of it, Engineered Migration to Rescue Perth's 2,600 at-risk homeless children under the age of 12 from horrendous child sex crimes. Coming in here, purpose of the video is to discuss how to get these children under the age of 12 off the streets of Perth, right? That goes down to that section there. The second thing we want to do, the best solutions to the Agenda 21 threat. Now, we don't like to talk to any organisation until they've watched the Razor Keogh video on YouTube, 20 minutes, to find out this is the greatest threat to humanity. We want to know if your organisation is prepared for the Agenda 21 threats, and we know you're not. But we will tell you the solutions, which is engineered transmigration. Right, the third thing we want to do is look at the recommended class action for Aboriginal clans to get back sovereignty and rulership of Australia. This is the only possible way that we can halt racism, is if the nation is handed back to all the different clans right across Australia, having what we call micronations, independent states, not under the Australian federal or state governments, which are very, very corrupt, very, very cruel, driven by the White Australia policy, still applies today. You know, it's just a terrible world that we live in. Because at the end of the day, little black lives matter too. And when you see some of our videos, you will cry what's happening to these children. So let's have a look at the first section here. All right, up there, I got there, under 12, mostly Aboriginal, representing 50 clans across Western Australia. Interesting thing is, Dion's actually related to a whole lot of those different clans, and we're just so privileged to have him to represent the Aboriginal nation. We have different consultants around the world to handle different nations. We don't get involved directly with the Aboriginal people. It goes through Dion Joseph. He speaks the language, he knows the culture, and you know, he will treat them in the right way, whereas I'm a Maori, I do not know the Aboriginal culture. So he does over in Africa, Zimbabwe, we have a representative as well, in the different African nations also, you know, Philippines, Indonesia, etc. So having a look there, these children are victims, as you can see, 3,400 paedophiles, 52 paedophiles per suburb. That's about one paedophile per street in Perth. Perth is the paedophile capital of the world, and goes hand in hand with also the child sex crime capital of the world, with the amount of sex crimes that are happening. You know, we have white Australian truck drivers giving little Aboriginal children, you know, as young as 8, giving them petrol to sniff in exchange for sex. How low is that? We also have some of them have fled the home to the streets because they've been raped by family or friends. Now, a problem we've been having is with these African gangsters drugging them. They get drawn in, when they're homeless, they get drawn into these what they call drug dens and drugged with the date rape drug, and then they're getting sodomized. They're getting bottles, sticks, dildos, vibrators rammed into them by these African gangsters. Some of them are former soldiers, child soldiers, very, very cruel. And they're doing this sort of stuff when they're high on meth or coming down on it. And then you've got those who've been kidnapped and forced into child prostitution. If you have a look at the information we have about what's happening in America, also over in Africa, this child sex crimes, horrendous child sex crimes, are happening all around the world. But the most vulnerable are the children that are on the streets, particularly this 2,600. Why? Because they're black. Little black lives matter too. Right? It's shocking, this White Australia policy. Now, what are the solutions? The solutions are get the children off the streets. Now, I went to Passages, which is the first point of call for children who are homeless. The director there said to me, Hemi, just get them off the streets. But I was thinking about the engineered transmigration that we have to first rescue them, you see number one, and then rehabilitate them and then relocate them into our beautiful high-tech upmarket sustainable villages in paradise in the wilderness regions that we build very, very fast. So as you can see there, the three phases. In the summertime we would use what we call a child safety centre. You can see that on our Live Aid Revolution YouTube channel under Madonna. If you have a look for Madonna, it's a lovely face. Actually no, her face not there, it's mine, sorry. Anyway, it's the one about Madonna. Watch that one and you'll know about the child safety centres that we researched. We researched a lot of different ways to get the children off the streets. So it's winter time, so we're using the we're inviting international hotel chains to come in. They ran a project there called Hotels with Heart campaign when COVID-19 came out and all the hotels were empty, so they ran this campaign. They brought homeless people off the street, but those were adults. But meanwhile, the 2,600 children were left on the streets because it's convenient for the paedophiles and government and the police and all that for these children to be left on the street, so they're bait or they're a banquet of sex, child sex for these paedophiles. And they've been doing it for 120 years. What's the difference? So it's too cold for the child safety centres now. It's freezing here in Perth. And we want to do a barter deal with them and say, hey, listen, you look after these children, bring them off the streets at your cost, so we can either, pay you on a delayed payment or some other method. And, we will promote you here for the Live Aid VR music benefit concerts. We'll have about 2 billion fans. We'll promote your hotel chain and it'll soften the face of your hotel chain. And we know you tried it over here with the Hotels with Heart campaign. That's good. Look, it's more heart if you can do this. Little black lives matter too. And all those black African Americans, they are going to be so angry when they hear about this. Child sex crimes, they got the same problem in America. So let's go back here. Number 2, best solutions to Agenda 21 threat. Right, no, I don't want to go there yet. Let me go back in here on the solutions to the 2,600 children. Phase 1 is to rescue, right? Get them off the streets into hotel accommodation, emergency accommodation. We've been researching, as I say, there they are, all the different things we've done. Right, now over here, phase 2 is while they're in the accommodation there, we have all the VR, AR technologies, you can see them, and all the motion machines. The motion machines we use because it will snap them out of a suicidal or depressed state, and the children get so excited, hop in the motion machines, they're flying through the sky, can't tell the difference, or they're jumping out of helicopters or parachuting or whatever. They get scared stiff and they love it, and it just snaps them out of the suicidal state. It makes our job easier. Right, and then we had the happy training curriculum that I just told you about a moment ago. So we put them through all the life skills education and rebuild their self-esteem, their self-worth, to make them feel like they're somebody. All right, we teach them how to handle people, we teach them problem solving, and we just help them to become happy, right? So phase 3, once they're rehabilitated in here and with all the life skills education and everything else, then we will relocate them into phase 3, which is to relocate them using engineered migration here, moving them up to our World Capital for Sustainability that we've been working on now for several years to build this project. In there is the miniature sustainable city there. There's the monorail link to the Perth railway system, 6 compact communities there, what we call walkable communities on the monorail system, so we don't need any automobiles anywhere, and everything's off the grid. It's 100% renewables. So in there we're putting the 5 sustainable villages in Paradise, with demonstration villages with actually different indigenous tribes living in them. So what we've done is we've cut that and we're putting in 12. We increased it from 5 to 12 for these children, and more if need be. But the children are going to help to build these things. And then there's 2 wildlife corridors you can see there. There's a wildlife rehabilitation centre going in. There's a 9-zone high-tech environment technology park with all the VR, AR and all that going in. And there's a global university for sustainability alliance linking in through VR to all the world-leading universities in the area of sustainability. So we'll be using the live VR, AR live streaming of high resolution, fully immersive VR, AR and hologram technologies, which were developed for our live streaming of the virtual reality music concerts. Let's go down here into the next section there. So there's a lot, when you look at it, there's a lot, it looks real busy, but it takes me 5 minutes to go through each section there. So, as you see there, let's go back here. Yes, so let's go on to the Agenda 21 threads. All right, Agenda 21, there it is. That was up there. Best solutions to Agenda 21 threads. All right, let's follow that down. So come down here, Agenda 21, and hopefully you've watched it. The solutions to Agenda 21 is to get the hell out of the cities, right, into the pristine wilderness areas, with your own, in what we call micronation based safe nation zero emission economies. These are micronations. Here in Western Australia we have the Hutt River province, about 500 kilometres north of Perth, and that is its own state or province within Australia. It is not a part of Australia, it's a micronation. It is not under the Australian federal or state government laws. It has its own laws and regulations. It has the ultimate supreme sovereignty and rulership. They are not under any control of the Australian governments. They also have their own financial system. They have their own laws and legislation. They have their own currency, which is called the Hutt River dollar, which is 1-to-1 with the Australian dollar. So that's a micronation. What we're suggesting is that all the Aboriginal clans across Australia unite, put in a class action, and force this government creating a global outcry about these children, to bring black people all around the world in behind us, saying this White Australia policy is just like the most cruel policy ever out. They developed the White Australia policy, had a lot of genocides and seizing of the children, but they created the the ultimate racism, which is apartheid. It was created here in Australia, taken to South Africa, but they had to soften it because it was too harsh for the Africans. But they had done it on our Aboriginal brothers and sisters. Really, really cruel white Australia policy, and they've been raping the little Aboriginal girls for 120 years, because that's what they do. You ask anybody who's been a slave, did you get raped? Of course they did. Right, so coming down here, have a look at that. And by the way, this has opened up a hornet's nest. We're getting extreme provocation and attacks from the government from all directions coming at us, because we're going them on the law of the trust to get back sovereignty of Australia for our Aboriginal clans, because the law of the trust overrides the law of the sea. And people don't know that it even exists. Only the corporations know it, because well, it is designed to benefit the corporations with all their, discretionary trusts, family trusts, vested trusts, you name it. It's all there to benefit the rich. White supremacy. We can change that ball game. So here we go. The solutions. Right, micronations, engineered migration, get out of the cities. They're going to implode on themselves. We have the rapid building construction. We'll build the sustainable villages in paradise for the children, and the sustainable cities in paradise. We're doing the rollout next year throughout the frontier emerging markets. Also, you can see there the threats posed by Agenda 21, the New World Order, corporate controlled, militarised, one world government. So it's important that our Aboriginal clans take back control of Australia. When you will find that when the leaders of the military watch this video, they're going to jump to our side. They're going to know we're going to shut this damn government down. This is wrong. You can't do that to these children, no matter what colour they are. And right at this moment, there's an outrage right around the world about Black Lives Matter, but these are little Black Lives Matter too. They're our future. So those are your threats with this evil Agenda 21, and their vision is to depopulate humanity by about 6 billion people. They're doing it through mass starvation. If you've watched the Rosa Keogh video on YouTube, you should know all this. And then check out Side Cost Addendum. It's also got it, and also our podcast, Truth About 9/11, reveals what's going on in the bigger pictures out there. So it's regionalisation leading to globalisation and global mass deception to the max, with the so-called sustainable development for the 21st century, which we run down big time. Coming into the next section here, helping Aboriginal clans. Follow the arrow back. There it is, right there. Recommended class action for Aboriginal clans to get back sovereignty and rulership of Australia. That, my friends, is the only possible way we can stop these injustices. We can stop this racism, this cruelty against our black brothers and sisters. Because little Black Lives Matter too. And you're going to be so sad when you hear some of the stories and videos that we have about these children. And one of the saddest ones I found was the family that contacted me. Their little boy died in the streets, sleeping rough out front of a library, a public library, while white people walk past. And their little boy, he died of, the coroner report said, hypothermia. Right? Us Kiwis know what that is. Hypothermia means he froze to death. And I've actually had it. And when you got hypothermia, it's like you're drunk, but you're not. You're all over the place. And you die. No, unfortunately I didn't. But this little boy died with all these white people walking past, because that little boy to them was less than an animal or a plant, because they were white. And you see, if it was a little bird or an animal that was injured, they would have picked it up. They would have nurtured it. They would have talked to it. They would have taken it to the vet, and they would have paid the vet bill on most of the cases. But not so with a little human caught an Aboriginal, they left him in the street. No one picked him up. This is the real world, folks, of white supremacy, of what happens when a legislation goes through called the White Australia Policy. And the Australian whites are so far up their own backsides of self-importance that they run around going, Aussie, 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 oi, oi, oi. It's another way of saying, no, we're superior to everyone else. But they're also superior to Aboriginals. Because I've never seen an Aboriginal say that. No way. So this white supremacy and racism in politics has gone on now for 120 years since the White Australia policy was legislated through Parliament, through every government department, police, the judiciary, incarceration at the jails, the farming communities. I went through all the schools, education facilities, universities. Aboriginals are nothing. Us white people are superior. White supremacy. Racism to the max. Passed on from generation of white families teaching their children how to be racist. But look, that is not the case in all cases, because many of the little white children say, no, I can't believe this, I like my Aboriginal friends, and they've grown up loving Aboriginals, just like this friend of mine who gave, as she's on disability support pension, she loves them too. I was talking to her last night, and she says, no, I'm not racist, I chose not to believe that as a little child. So how beautiful is that? So not all white Australians are bad, but we're putting the pressure on all of them so that they wake up. They put the pressure on this government. They remove the government from power. They support the class action to hand back Australia to its rightful owners. And that is the only possible way that little black lives will matter, because their leaders will control the region of Australia. All right, so that's how it works, folks, and we're here for the children because we care. We're very, very deeply disturbed by what's happened. Interesting story behind this, actually, because a friend of mine, she's right into the drugs and all that. She's an addict, and when I told her we were going into Africa to do the rollout of our sustainable villages, sustainable cities, and also our Live Aid benefit, VR benefit concerts, for music concerts for the African children to rescue them from sex crimes. And she said to me and challenged me, why are you going over there? You should be sorting it out here. Looking after our children over here first before we go to Africa. And I went to pick her up and I tried to get stuff. After she left, I realised she was right. She was right. So then I went out there and found out, well, how can we help our children here? And that's when this friend of mine rang me up, a Maori leader, and said, hey, my bro, you've got to come and see me. There's a problem out there, crisis with the Aboriginal children. So, there's going to be a lot of cover-ups. There's a lot of dirty stuff happening. They seized 3 of our corporate bank accounts, the government did, in a joint venture with the central banks. And they also, just after we signed a lease, were on top of a skyscraper. So we nearly got done in. We nearly got forced into bankruptcy, but we got out of it. They have they've intercepted all our emails, our phones drop out on us suddenly when we've got important phone calls, because we know the Five Eyes intelligence network is listening in. The federal police are investigating us to see how they can do us in. So the government has got every department possible to do us in. But because I do not have a criminal record, I've never had a criminal record, I've never committed fraud, I've never stolen anything, they can't touch me. And I'm the only representative of the Sustainable Nation Building Industry Steering Group that goes public. Everybody else does not go online. They remain invisible and unknown, because we are coming up against the fossil fuel companies and they are going to kill us. But they won't kill me, because I have rallies that live within 20 minutes of the NBN cable, and the moment something happens to me, the NBN cable gets cut up because it runs through our property. And the proof of that is that there is a sign every 500 metres that says optic fibre cable, do not dig here. Now you might wonder, how come I know so much about the optic fibre cable? Well, the rollout of the cable came under the ocean from Singapore, and then it came into Western Australia, then it was rolled out underground through to Perth, and then it went across the Nullarbor to all the other cities and towns across Australia. Now the interesting thing is, the cable had been laid, but they hadn't got someone to hook it all up, what they call tunnels. Now the deal for the person to hook up all those tunnels to the optic fibre cable was given to an top IT expert called Steve Brown. Now where do you reckon, right, this is the internet I'm talking about here for Australia, where do you reckon the deal went down for that? Do you reckon it was done in the Prime Minister's office? Do you reckon it was done in the West Australian's Premier's office? Or BHP Billiton? No, it wasn't. That deal went down in my corporate office in Subiaco, and when the directors from Singapore who owns that cable came in, they came to my office, they saw the Bond Corporation boardroom table and chairs through my back door of my office into my boardroom, and they thought, these guys are loaded. There's a special boardroom table. Everybody knew about that. It used to be at the top of the Bond building. So we ended up with it. And anyway, the deal went down in my office to hook up the internet. Everything from Telstra, IINet, you name it, all the big telcos were hooked up by one person, Steve Brown. And that deal went down not in the PM's office, but in my corporate office. So I know things about that cable that even Bill Gates doesn't know, because they chose Steve Brown for a reason, because of his integrity. Anyone else who knows what we know about that cable could tap into it, and they would have no idea that we've just set up a Telstra. So, a big major internet service provider. So, these are our sort of connections, our background into what we do, and why we know so much about so many things. So look here, we're looking at this one here, helping with the class action to get back sovereignty. Coming down here, we want to help all the Aboriginal clans. We live by the concept of giving without expectation, so we're happy to help you guys. We're not asking you for money or anything. You're going to see where our money's come from. We don't even worry about it. But we do want to stop this racism in politics, and the way to do that is get the politics out, get rid of the 5 most corrupt institutions in the world, according to the 2013 Global Corruption Barometer. Number 1 is politicians, political parties. Number 2 is police. Number 3 is the judiciary. And this is why Aboriginals get shot in cold blood. They get tasered. They get cooked alive in the back of a paddy wagon going through the desert with 3rd-degree burns. They get murdered, raped, pillaged, everything, because the judiciary is corrupt. And the judiciary protects the paedophiles. This is why that priest got off, that cardinal, whatever he is, Catholic priest got off, because they twisted it. It's corrupt. So, number 1, politicians. Number 2, police. Number 3, and by the way, the police here control 95% of the drug distribution right across Australia. We got that from the president of the Hells Angels, who said we control 5% of the drug distribution in Australia. The government controls the other 95%. Now they're trying to take our 5% because they got greedy. And we know this from the underworld here in Perth, that the police do actually control the distribution of the drugs. And we have these crack and coke junkies that the police pay them $1,000 here to notify them of a new drug dealer in the area, so the police can go in and bust that drug dealer and knock out the international drug cartels. There's 16 of them trying to get into Perth. So they use the Five Eyes Intelligence Network, they use the Anti-Terrorist Squad, they use the Drug Squad, they use the TRG units, the whole lot, to knock out all the drug cartels trying to get in so that they can keep control of drug distribution right throughout Australia. All right, that's how it works. The police, the third most corrupt, second most corrupt. Then you got judiciary. Then you got the legislative, and that's where the law of the trust comes in. They set that one up a beauty to benefit the corporations, but we just happen to know how it works, and we can use it now to get back sovereignty. And interestingly, when I was up in Northern Territories, they found out I was up there. Our blackfellas, lawmen, and they called a meeting, wanted me to help out with the sovereignty and things, and I said yes, we can. And then they told me how they actually beat the government. They've forced the government and the Queen. They have to hand back sovereignty of their part of Australia, has to be handed back. But the Queen's playing dirty. She won't answer any of their correspondence because they've got her in a stalemate, checkmate. You need to hand it back. We've got you on the law of the trust, because the law of the trust overrides the law of the sea, and this is what people don't realise. So we're bringing in our lawyers, the big international lawyers, to push this through, but we're going to create a global outcry because of this, the child sex crimes. And the third winter, our little children are still on those darn streets, right? And that's going to be a massive outcry, and we're going to get force pressure, immense pressure on this government and on the Queen. Now, what people don't realise is the Queen is the major shareholder in many, many different corporations, and BHP Billiton, Rio Tinto. She's the major shareholder in Dutch Shell. And by the way, when you're the major shareholder, it pays to know everything your corporation's doing, and she does know everything. Shell does. And what Shell's done is a lot of genocides. When Shell went through Nigeria, they wanted to put a pipeline through a valley. In the middle of the valley was an Indigenous community, so Shell rang up the government. Government sent in a militia and genocided that entire village. Children, babies, mums, grandparents, the whole lot were genocided for Shell. That's how it works, folks. And major shareholder is, guess who? Queen of England. That's not all. She's also the head of state of Australia, isn't she? She's in charge of Australia, and one of the governments that came into power, she removed them because that government was coming up against all those corporations that she has an investment in. So this is it. You might think the Queen of England is a nice person. She's not. She's a horrible person because she is behind these human rights abuses, right? So, as we say, we want to help all you Aboriginal clans or tribes or whatever you want to call yourselves, mobs, to get back sovereignty. Right, there it is. Get back sovereignty of Australia. And you need to put together a class action using the law of the trust, which overrides the law of the sea, which was the original law that came in off these ships from Abel Tasman, Captain Stirling, Captain Cook and all that. They came with the law of the sea. When you go into a courthouse, what you see there is the same setup on board Captain Cook's ship, or these ships from the British Empire. And the judges up the front, which was the captain, and then to the left you have those rails where the criminal is in there. That's a deck of a ship. It's called the law of the sea. Then they simply brought that deck onshore as the law of the sea, which was basically just moving in all the legislation and everything onto shore. They did that all around the world. Right, so, but the Queen and the government snuck in this law of the trust, which no one knows about, that overrides the law of the sea. And through that, our bros got back that sovereignty, and they won it. So we know the Queen is now playing dirty but not responding, and as long as she doesn't respond, they can't get over the line, final line. But if we create a global outcry because of the racism in politics, then we will force them out, and also the police corruption. And they're controlling the drug distribution rights throughout Australia. Now, as you can see there, what we have, the engineering, motorised migration, rapid urban construction, everything else, those are the solutions to the threats, is to move out, is to have your own micronations, no part of the United Nations, therefore you are not under the UN Agenda 21, because you're no part of it. You just don't get stuffed. Right? There will, New World Order, corporate controlled, militarised one world government. Right? It's about depopulating humanity by about 6 billion people by destroying all the food production systems and then taking control and ownership of them, and then halting supply of the food chains into the towns and cities to starve humanity to death. And then there's also the IMF reset. You'll need to learn about that as well, which basically is the biggest bank robbery in human history, where money's going to become of no value. So we're nearly finished. Over here, follow the arrow up. What's that one says? Oh, that's the class action. All right. Now I only did this mind map this morning, yesterday and today, myself and Dion Joseph. All right. So there we go, helping. You can have a look at this yourselves in your own time, getting back sovereignty. This is a wealth creation plan. It's a PLN21, personal learning network, with 21 children in it. And we set it up as a PDY limited company, right, marketing the happy training curriculum I told you about, which is all being automated, that people can buy it off the website. It's $600 if they're impoverished, can prove it, you know, with a healthcare card or social security card, then it's free because our philanthropists will pay the $600. So what we do is we set them up with a PDY limited company. So we get 21 children off the streets, right? We'll put them under Dion as the PLN21, so he'll have the 51% shareholding. The 49% will go back into these 50 Aboriginal clans. Now, look here. So it's a PDY limited company and registered under Australian laws and in the top of a skyscraper. We do everything according to feng shui. That's another story. Right. Now, they'll have an automated digitised website marketing system for marketing the happy training curriculum, because the only way people can get into live in these sustainable villages in paradise, sustainable cities in paradise, is if they do the happy training curriculum, which means a lot of people. And the only solution for the coronavirus is engineered migration, is moving people, decent, good-hearted people, out of the conventional towns and cities, out into the remote and isolated, pristine wilderness areas of the frontier and emerging markets, or Australia, if they can get back sovereignty. So once out there, you close off the communities, you insulate them, you use the high-profile security companies, former SAS, special forces, and they protect the entire region, right? So no one can get in. So you stop tourists coming in. And when you stop people coming into communities, you also stop access to drugs. You stop also the paedophiles getting in, criminals, gangs. No one gets in. When you let tourists in, you're letting the whole lot in. So name of the game is keep them out. Use the high security companies to keep them out, and then you don't need any social distancing. You don't need to wear masks. You don't need and all the people eating, you know, bio-intensive agriculture anyway. You know, organic food and produce, no sprays. There's no imported food. We don't. You know, you can grow everything yourself through permaculture, aquaculture, everything else. So that's how it works. Right, and then we set them up, Dion up also with a vested trust. Now all this here, incorporation, we can do in 8 hours, our accountant. So we set them up, it's the best trust, it's a safe trust to use, and he won't lose anything if anything went topsy-turvy. Now in the vested trust, which is like your family trust or discretionary trust or whatnot, you put in the 21 children, right? So with these 21 children we're getting off the streets, they're in there, so they're going to receive dividends from the vested trust. The vested trust is going to receive $5 million from the profit share from the sale of the happy training curriculum, which comes with 100% money back satisfaction guarantee. It's all automated. All the profits are transferred at the point of sale using point of sale transaction software. So of the $600, 10% goes into the vested trust here, capped at $5 million, and then another 10% goes to my corporation, another 10% goes to children's charities, right? And 30% goes to the coach that's coaching the children, and also 10% goes to the sponsor. The sponsor is a philanthropist, you know, that pays the $1 million for the happy training curriculum license agreement that gives Dion with this PLN 21 Personal Learning Network the rights to market the Happy Training curriculum as an automated digitised system. You don't need to do anything, it's all done for them. So if you have a look at their dividends per year, the homeless children, the 21 of them, they'll get $5 million to share among them equally. That ends up at $285,000 US. So can you imagine these little children being sleeping rough for 3 years, now getting $285,000 a year from the Vesty Trust under Dion? And also that is equivalent to 432,000 in Australian dollars. So in 2.5 years, these little children sleeping rough at the moment are going to be millionaires. How good's that, eh? This is what we call giving the advantage to the disadvantaged, because they're the first of our engineered migration mass population. Coming down here, you can see philanthropists. We've got wonderful philanthropists coming and buying us. Right, they pay the $1 million by the Happy Training curriculum licensing rights. In return for that, they'll get a return of investment of $6 million per year, where 10% also of the profits are diverted at the point of sale straight into their bank accounts. All the profits are diverted because the Happy Training curriculum is basically a digitised software, and all the profits are all there. There is no physical product like a cabbage or something we have to plant and grow and then get to market and sell. No, this is all in the back of our computer. So there you go. A lot of money being redistributed back to the children, and also a $6 million return on investment. Now, we love Madonna. Madonna's doing so much good for children in Africa, but she got 30 charities, but every $1 million she gives out, she gets nothing back. And that's lovely for her because she's happy doing it anyway. There's more pleasure in giving. And it's the concept of giving without expectation. But in our case, as a reward for paying that $1 million to give Dion that license agreement, they can get back $6 million every year, automated. It doesn't come into our bank account. It's diverted at the point of sale. That's the system. Same with the profits for the Vesty Trust for the 21 children, diverted at the point of sale. Also for the 30% for the Happy Coach, diverted at the point of sale. Nothing comes into our bank account. Also the 30% for tax, straight, doesn't come into our bank account. Right? So this is how it works. Now coming in the last section here. Funding opportunities. There's a lot of funding opportunities to help Dion to get these children off the streets. So onshore, PLN 21, I just talked about. Dion will have 51% shareholding, registered legal business entity. Now, because Dion has the 51% there, you can see that, it means that Dion, being Aboriginal with the 51% ownership of a corporation, is entitled to access the 3.5% federal government grants, which no one seems to know about. Dion didn't know about it until I told him. And by the way, Dion is one of the key leaders of the Noongar Nation and the Yamatji Nation. So when you have a look at that, I said to Dion, did you, and the other elders, I said, did you know that there's these 3.5% federal grants? He said, no, I never heard of it. I said, yeah, my bro. My incoming CEO, he's already put through one of these grants for one of the Aboriginal clans up in the Northern Territory. And it went through, piece of cake. Right? Because they give grants, like here in Western Australia, 300 million was given to the Collie coal mine. They never paid back. 776 million was given to the Catholic schools yesterday. They didn't have to get that back, and it gave them the edge on all the common schools. That's what they do. Governments look after the rich. They look after the religions. Also, the cathedral here, opposite Royal Perth Hospital, they gave $30 million for that, when Dion only needed $3 million to get all these children off the streets. Right? So these grants are out there, and government just dishes them out to whoever they want to, but mainly to the religions, the religious schools, to the churches. They look after their mates, or they siphon off the money into their own pockets, or offshore, or into the pockets of the rich. That's how it works, folks. So, number one, Dion can get access to funding through us, up to $5 million a year. Number two there, the 3.5% federal grants are available for him. And also the crowdfunding. And, it didn't work because no one put any money in. Only 3 people did in 10 months. Right. So, also for the crowdfunding, that money can come in from Indigenous networks from around the world will jump on board and they'll feel compassion for these little children. And also the corporates and the governments from overseas. Because you see, as the Sustainable Nation Building Industry Steering Group, we have the only economically viable solution to the coronavirus pandemic. And that's called relocation out into the beautiful, remote, pristine wilderness areas into new sustainable villages or sustainable cities in paradise built from the ground up. Very, very fast. So, and with the sustainable villages, I'll just give you an idea of what a sustainable village is. It's top secret what we do. We don't put information out there about what we do because the Shell didn't have a problem, genociding a Indigenous village, and Shell is not going to have a problem killing our Sustainable Nation Building Industry Steering Group and their families. This is the sort of things they do, right? It's a ruthless world we live in, and mining companies do the same. When Indigenous activists come up against them, they seem to disappear. And get silenced or whatever. So the reason that they won't do anything to me is that optic fibre cable runs through our property. We know that if it gets cut up, anything happens to me within 20 minutes, that cable's cut, which means there's no distance education, there's no internet for emergency services, for hospitals, for the health services, there's no internet for businesses to operate, because in the city all those skyscrapers are empty because everyone's working from home. So when that internet cable is cut, Australia goes down the tubes just like that. And this is why I'm the only one that goes public. They won't touch me because that cable runs through our property, and the underworld were going to cut it up last year, but I said no, don't do that, you put us Maoris out of business. If you do cut it up on the Perth side of our property, so then we still got the internet. So you're all right. No sweat brace. No, just back off. If we're not happy with the way the government does things here, we'll move our global capital for our world capital for sustainability. We'll move into Africa and everything else, because our buildings that we put up, we can also take down. Right, now going back to what a sustainable village is. A sustainable village is built very, very fast, and I'll show you why. Right, I'll show you why. See this? And you see it in our videos, right? See this? Right, that there is fly ash with granite mixed into it. All right, and it's twice the strength of cement. It doesn't shrink. It's at full strength in 4 hours, right? We use it also to stand on for the scaffolding. Now we put all different types of mixes in, like if you have a look here, these are all the sort of rocks on the ground on our property. And we just crush those up and put them in the mix. So instead of having granite, we have that beautiful finish. So we're bringing the outdoors indoors. So if we go up north, we'll use the red sand in the panels. Now the panels, we put the wiring and the plumbing, I put it into the panels inside the factory. And our factory for our World Capital for Sustainability is only 30 minutes away, but we're a portable factory. We just drop on site, get all these, crush these up, put them in the mix. 4 hours later, they're hard as. Put all the wiring and the plumbing. We have couplings on the ends of the wiring and the plumbing, so when we go floor to floor, if we're going 14 floors, we just connect all the couplings and up she goes. We've gotten rid of all the trades, folks. We don't, and we have many different types of finishes, beautiful marble finishes, all your different tiles and stuff. So we make the whole dwelling out of the panels. We deliver to site inside of a shipping container. And then we have two 16-year-olds. In this case, it's going to be one Maori and one Aboriginal 16-year-olds, and then one tradesperson working with them. They'll unpack the shipping container with all these panels, and it's a clip-up technology. So they clip the whole lot together, and in 28 days, we have a complete dwelling, 3-4 bedroom home. And remember, we don't use any tradespeople except for the electrician and the plumber come at the end of the build, and it all clips together. So 28 days, those two young fellas will have it built, and then the electrician plumber come in, fit the solar glass. This one here, you'll see this fantastic product here. This is what we call laser cut glass, cut with laser, and it diverts the sunlight. Now look, that there, I've just put it up against the light and it's lit the room up. But if I put it outside in the sunlight, it will, and turn all the lights off inside, it will light up everything. All right. So laser cut glass saves lights on in the daytime. Then we have like this solar glass generating electricity, rooftop solar, rooftop wind, horizontal wind turbine. The combination of those two types of electricity generates hydrocarbon, which can be used in automobiles. With the latest automobiles coming out from Asia, two corporations have jumped onto this. The hydrogen is the way to go of the future. So we have the plumber and the electrician come at the end, and all the hot water systems, solar pump for the artesian water if there's not a river nearby. Then we have everything solar water filtration systems, and then also the low flow water systems, water capture systems, wastewater recycling. We use also the composting toilets, where the compost from going to the toilet is dumped back into the wilderness. I don't believe in putting it back onto the gardens that we're eating food from. We're going to stop that. So anyway, yeah, it's recycled. Everything's recycled, reused, or whatever, and we cut all our costs down. All right, so it's a beautiful concept. And in the sustainable villages, we have the community dining centre, which is quite a large dining centre, and in there we have also a stage, and we do all the performances. So we just move all the chairs the other way, and it converts into an indoor entertainment area. There's a commercial kitchen hooked to it, with all the latest high-tech kitchen equipment, all run by off the grid as well. There's a creche for the children. Then there's all the off the wall and on the wall art, Indigenous art, painting, sculptures, and you can have the water features inside if that's you're into the feng shui and everything else. And then also a creche, so that the mum can put the little bubby in the creche, and a little 10-year-old will get a little bubby, bottle or whatever. So it's a beautiful concept. We're not putting any kitchens into the homes. We want the community eating together and socialising together. It's good for everyone, and then the wife doesn't have to worry about cooking, and all the ones doing the cooking and cleaning are happy doing it. Whereas you got a poor wife slugging her guts out every day, mate, and she's got to clean up. She's got no time for herself. She's grumpy in the evening. So she don't need to worry about that. She just goes there, and she don't even worry about feeding the child, because one of the little children in the community going to feed their child, little bubby. So everyone happy, and it's good quality food. It's straight out of the garden, straight in the kitchen, fresh as. So that's the community centre. Also outside of it, we have the outdoor dining areas, where we have a hangi for some Maoris, or your traditional in the ground cooking methods, or the indigenous methods for the community as a whole. Now the stage on the inside, there's also a backstage area for getting changed and everything, and doing all the performing. And then on the back of the backstage, at the back of the stage, is an outdoor stage with an outdoor entertainment area as well. So that's community centre, and then we have all the homes around the area, and then we also have gazebos, large gazebos, with the dance floor and renewable energy to power the sound system and they can do all their dancing, and some really nice upmarket comfortable furniture. They can relax, and we put the gazebos down near the water, near the river, in the bush, or wherever they want it put. Also, there's a spa rejuvenation centre with a aroma steam rehydration unit, with the Vibrason technology, also the saunas and plunge pool, the hot tubs and spa pools, and then rooms for massages. And we're rotating all our masseurs and masseuses around the world from different Indigenous cultures. So you might have someone coming from Hawaii. He's going to teach everyone how to do Hawaiian huna massage. Unbelievable. They use their forearms. And then we might have someone come from China do Qigong, where he uses his feet. He stands up on the bed, on the massage table, and he uses the feet to massage your back and stretch the back. Then we have all the bodywork energies from Reiki through to body harmony, all fantastic, different technologies that we use. So that's the health centre, and then also we have the gymnasium, miniature gymnasium. You don't need a big one, for the weights and everything else they want to do, and train and get fit, treadmills and stuff. So that's your community, the Indigenous community, Sustainable Villages in Paradise for our Indigenous peoples. We deliver 60 odd containers, 40 for the homes, to build the homes very quickly for the community itself, and they can live a happy life. We build where the ley lines are right, the magnetic lines of the earth are right, and everything's, we did the environmental impacts and everything, studies, so that we have minimal impact on the natural environment. All right, so I've covered a lot, gone a little bit off track there, don't worry about it. Coming over here, as we're saying, the funding, there we go, Dion can get the PLN 21. And then we have here the offshore, where you can get major funding from philanthropists, Wall Street, Silicon Valley, oil majors, and the institutional investor groups are very interested in what we're doing, because we have the only economically viable solution to coronavirus. A vaccine's not a solution, because you still have to wear masks, you still have to social distance. It's all fascist police state policies. So nothing's going to change once they get their vaccine or cure. If you get out of the cities into the beautiful, pristine, remote wilderness areas of the frontier and emerging markets or Australia, you don't need social distancing, because no one's coming in to bring the disease into your community, or crime or violence or paedophiles. And you're right, okay? So, happy life, only economically viable solution, because you need to be able to build the infrastructure fast enough to accommodate the mass populations coming in. So we've got 2,600 children we're going to be bringing in, but it's done in the 3 phases that I showed you over there. Right, phase 1, emergency. Phase 2, rehabilitate. Phase 3, relocate. Coming down here, people talk about funding, but look, there is so much funding out there to support us. We've had magnificent pledges to back us, despite the fact that the 60 greedy rich gave us nothing in New Zealand and Australia. Our institutional investors from Asia are happy to support us. And one of them, they've asked me not to mention who they are, what country they come from, because they give without any expectation. And when they found out what we were doing for these children, one of them said to my incoming CEO, you tell Hemi, right, see that right there, when he gets 1 million subscribers, paying him the $99 a year for a full 12 months subscriptions, where we're going to teach them the happy training curriculum and all the other life skills and education, lots of different things about sustainability and how we build these precincts so fast. Also the Environment Technology Park and our world capital for sustainability. Now, so what he said was, you get your 1 million subscribers, 99 million. He said in 20 minutes, I'll put 99 million in your bank account. As he told my incoming CEO. You tell Hemi, you get 1 million, I can do that very easy through India. You get 1 million, I'll put 99 million in 20 minutes. Now these guys are in big business. They never go back on their word. never go back on their word, right? And as we said, now he told his two friends about what we're doing, and you know what they said? It's right there. The second one said, and the third one said, you tell Hemi, we'll match it. Right? We'll match it. So when we get the first 1 million followers and subscribers, we will pick up within 20 minutes just under $300 million to get these children off the streets. How fantastic is that, eh? They're philanthropists. They don't want any recognition. I said to them, hey, listen, man, this is so generous of you. We'll give you 10% of Dion's company. They felt insulted. We didn't give you that. We're not giving you that money so that we're getting something out of it. We don't want to know about it. And this is the beautiful concept of giving without expectation. And they're lovely. And they're from offshore, folks. Right there. Offshore. Onshore, we got nothing from the 60 greedy rich, from the politicians, and even from our Noongar people themselves, and our Maori people, which was very, very disappointing for me. Right, so the other thing is we're selling the Sustainable Cities in Paradise. These are unbelievable. And we're selling them for $500 billion upfront payments, 10 high-tech upmarket, privately owned and operated Sustainable Cities in Paradise within micronations that we own, and we have the ultimate sovereignty and rulership of those micronations. And we transform them into what we call low consumption, service and information based economies. So you can see that our Sustainable Nation Building Industry Steering Group, we have 6 industries that make up the Sustainable Nation Building industry. All 6 industries are new, unknown industries because we don't use fossil fuels or automobiles. We use the rivers and the ocean as the main transport infrastructure, and then we drop monorail systems into the bush using heavy lift helicopters and in a figure 8 formation, and then we use to put the base of the pylons for the monorail system. What do we use? We use this because it drives in 4 hours. Right? Find the base using high precision GPS, put in that what we call geopolymer mix with the bolts for the pylons. Heavy lift helicopters come in. I'm the ex-Air Force, by the way, engineer, aeronautical engineer. So we know the lifting capacities. We can drop the entire monorail system into the bush, figure 8 formation, movement away from the river or from the ocean, and then adjacent for 2 loops, and then adjacent to the river or coastline. So that's how, and then we put compact communities on the monorail system. We conduct environmental impact studies with the local Indigenous peoples, lawmen, or what we call the master bushmen, and the people, and then we capture and relocate all the wildlife in the area of about the size of a footy oval, and then and that includes moving the beehives, smoking them, moving them, all the little lizards and animals, relocate the whole lot, and then we put cameras there to follow the rehabilitation process of the little animal that we just relocated. So, and then we link that into all the schools, so all the children can follow the little animals, and they're adapting to their new part of the forest. And that brings all the schools in. The children can name the animals, and then they can actually come and visit too and see those little animals. And it'll be all in VR anyway. So it just gets the interest of the children to learn about our sustainable cities in paradise and our sustainable villages in paradise, because it aligns perfectly to our vision. And our vision is simple. It's to create a happy future for our children and for our children's children from all walks of life without prejudice. Huh? Without prejudice. We don't care whether they're African, Indian, Chinese, white, rich, poor, or dumb and stupid. It don't matter to us. Right? So, children are children. We are here for them. And we are especially here for these 2,600 children still on the darn streets of Perth, because little black lives matter too. So, phenomenal funding. We can build debt-free, zero-emission green infrastructure projects, but you can have a look at the rest of it during your own time. I got a little bit overboard on time. And as you can see, there's a lot of money out there we're going to get access to. And the thing is the money must come from within the culture. Within the culture. This is an Aboriginal culture with these children, right? There's Dion. We can set them up with the money to come in from different directions. Over here, the homeless children. Now the culture, as I got there, number one, the culture is Aboriginal. The money's got to come from the Aboriginal people themselves, right? First and foremost, to get these children off the streets. Once we're off the streets, we'll take care of the rest at the World Capital for Sustainability, because our philanthropists will pay for, if we need additional money. But look, with the upfront payments of 400 billion, we can cover everything. We don't need to worry about nothing. So here's your first culture. Money got to come from within the culture, right? Because money has energy. If you bring in, a lot of Indigenous cultures have gotten money from corporations or from governments, and with it came this energy that wasn't good, and it all imploded where the Indigenous people themselves ripped off the money, or they were too disorganised or whatever. But getting the money in from a beautiful source like from these philanthropists, look at that, 277 million within 20 minutes, beautiful, and I don't have to repay them. Right, so and as you see, we've got these guys here interested in what we're doing. Wall Street, the Silicon Valley technology giants, all majors need to eliminate their reliance on petroleum. And the best way they can do this is through investment in our multinational, quasi-independent organisation corporate structure with the first tier, second tier supply chains, and also the 6 world regional companies. There's cross-holdings across all the supply chains and up and across the 6 world regional companies to our parent company. And we don't have to pay tax, so we just set them up on the micronations. So there you go. The second culture that we have is our culture, to do with our sustainability projects. And just like you saw there, with our feng shui friendly institutional investors backing us, we believe in the concept of giving without conditions. And what we have, our culture though, is all about sustainability, sustainable villages and sustainable cities. The education sustainability as well, life skills education, social sciences, all this sort of thing. But our culture is different. It is not linked to an Indigenous culture, as you see there. Neither is it a music culture or a particular race or nationality, right, or religion or age specific gender. No, it's going to undo that. All it is what you can see there. The culture is a common culture based on decency, right? So it's exclusive for decent, good-hearted people, right? And our systems are designed to kick out indecent people. They start swearing, talking sex and all this other rubbish, or nasty stuff, cyberbullying, we kick them off the system, because we only will allow decent, good-hearted people. So it's a common culture based on decency, folks. And you see, decent people will look at this and go, I'll do some research on all the stories that they're telling me here, and then I am going to support it. Because at the end of the day, little Black Lives Matter too. Thank you very much for your time. Have a nice day.